Waiting for my little thing to update here. There we go. And I am using, it's actually really cool. I looked up a bunch of stuff because I wanted to make sure that, hold on, I gotta see if this audio is right too. I looked up a bunch of stuff because I wanted to make sure that, can you hear the music? Yeah, I think you can. It's alright if it's like a little off. Forgive me. Yeah. So Stream has this, or Steam. I almost said Stream and then Steam. What is my hair doing? Headset's coming off. Twitch has this thing now that I didn't know about. It's basically like their version of YouTube audio. Way back in the day, all you YouTube users, if you ever use YouTube for anything, it's like they have their own set of non-copyright, it's copyright, but like they own the rights to their own music and stuff. So I have here, it should be saying that I'm playing 2C now, which is very, very cool in my opinion. It still says that I'm playing In Your Heart, but that's not right. And we're just gonna minimize that. But actually, we'll keep it open. Having troubles connecting to your stream. Ooh. Oops. That's not good. Apparently, it's supposed to connect. Anyways. As the name rightly suggests, it is currently 2 a.m. One thing that I really like, I've had this recent obsession with TikTok. Hasn't everybody? But it's been really fun. I enjoy it. But I'll get on, and then there's like one of the first people that I actually followed. They do cosplay. She's a Christian cosplayer. It's really cool. Posts a lot of good stuff, a lot of encouraging stuff too. But she always explains how her content is really hectic, like it's really chaotic. Like her upload stuff is just chaotic, and she'll spend like hours and hours on any given night just doing like whatever, and it's like it's so funny. But she always explains how it's hectic, and I think that that's cool, and it's kind of how I want this to be. Like, I don't want to be so organized that I forget that a lot of why I want to stream, and a lot of why I want to interact and talk with people in this platform and in this capacity is like just on spontaneous whim, more than schedule. And what better way to kick off my journey with any of you watching than starting at 1:47 in the morning. It's actually really cool. We just spent 6 hours, me and a couple of friends, 6 hours streaming Phasmophobia, only to find out that I didn't have my past broadcast setting enabled. So it's gone now. Basically never happened. But those that were there, it was a good time. I wish I could have got some clips from it of me screaming my face off, but we'll definitely stream it again, because it was mad fun. The game is still in early development, which is really cool. I'm excited to see what things they add into the game. But yeah, so I guess I can get to the point of this entire live stream. So it is an introduction. I do want to introduce myself as a as a streamer on this channel. And I guess as you know, the whole just chatting thing, I think it's really cool. And I think I want to stay true to that. So if you hear me ramble, it's cool. That's why we're here. We're just talking. So I if you don't know, and I say that because a lot of my homies, A1 day ones, they've been supporting me, but I started off like doing a lot of like media type stuff like this. Like I did a lot of YouTube stuff. I started off in middle school. The desire was birthed in me to create and like create things as like a haven for people to laugh and enjoy themselves, because that's what I found and that's what I took comfort in when I was in middle school. And so like post middle school, I really wanted to get into that, which at the time it was like an impossible thing that people were doing. And I wouldn't have been one of the so-called like what is it called? So-called, what's it called? Don't even know. The pioneers of YouTube. I wouldn't have been one of those. I was too young. And I started watching YouTube way too early, or way too late into the game. But I was inspired, and I would have been following in the footsteps of the ones who came before me. Which really I would have been starting now, which is kind of ridiculous because now it's such a big platform to where everybody who's like smaller channels kind of has their own cliques, and occasionally, to me at least, it is what I'm seeing from the outside looking in. Occasionally one will sprout up and become one of the quote unquote bigger channels. So if I were to start now, like doing the things that I used to, I would have been it would have been a lot different. But when I was in high school, I actually started, like I full sent like everything. I bought my gaming PC and built it, and I was so excited at the time. I had moved from console finally, and it was when Xbox 360 and PS3 were still like the big things. And at that time, I bought my PC, I built it, and then I bought like all my stuff. I actually bought the webcam. This is the same webcam that you're seeing. And then goodness gracious, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the screen right now. Sorry. Distractions. I bought the webcam. I had a Blue Yeti at the time, and I ended up selling it. I think I started off with a Blue Snowball. But that was like way earlier, before high school. But when I got to high school and I actually committed and started doing it like seriously, I had gotten rid of my Yeti. I had this webcam Logitech, and then I had this, the AT2020, which I am so proud of. I think it's still a great mic. Sponsored? Not really. This video is not sponsored in any way. Would be cool if it was, huh? But I had this mic, and then I bought like my own little keyboard and mouse, and I had my whole setup. I had an Elgato, and then I sold the Elgato, went to an HD PVR2. I had the whole 9 yards, dual monitors, all of it. And I was so excited to start, and I did start, and I started doing things consistently without allowing the numbers to get me down, because like any channel that starts off, you look at the numbers and they can easily get you down. if you're focused on the wrong things. And I say that with a grain of salt. I take that with a grain of salt because everybody's different and everybody has a different experience. But for me, it was very easy to get discouraged with those type of things. And so that was a big part for me, was not getting discouraged and realizing that I wasn't discouraged, because it was like even further motivation to just keep going, because it was like, well, I have no reason. I'm not here to impress anybody. I'm just doing things that I love and that I enjoy. And it's so weird. I think a lot about, different stuff like, and this is weird to say, but I think a lot about societal, like, psychology and, is that a thing? Social psychology, basically, which includes, what's the word that I just used? It's gone. But I'm fascinated with those things, and this, to me, is a form of community, and it's a form of release. It's a form of, you name it, things that were never possible before, like these great technological advances. And it was like, this was never something where somebody could be isolated but not isolated and have no human interaction yet have community. It's a very, very weird thing. I still don't know completely where I stand with it, being for or against it. I think I'm for it in a lot of ways. I also think I'm against it in a lot of ways, because having this but without having personal, intimate relationships with people is a very different thing to have. It's very similar, in my opinion, to high school type relationships. A lot of times high school relationships will look like, and this isn't for everybody, but high school relationships will typically look like, you show up, and when you're at school, you talk a few times a day to a couple people, and small talk, and I say small talk like, you're not talking about how when you don't want to go home, and you don't talk about your family life, and you don't talk about these different things. And those types of relationships aren't bad at all. Oftentimes they're very good, depending if you're choosing the right people to build your character and build their character with yours. But those types of relationships, having those relationships and relying on them solely for community, I think is very dangerous, and I think is very, it's like, what is it called? Like a quiet, silent giant or something like that. I'm using that completely wrong, but something that's like a silent killer, basically. Because you would think that it's giving you the community that you need, but when you don't have those in-depth and intimate relationships, which has now surged more of because of things like social media and technological advancements, things like this, there's been a surge of loneliness. There's been a surge of people having friends but not having like really intimate relationships. I went to a college in Atlanta, Georgia, and they did a little segment where they were explaining, like, they called it brotherhood, which was basically like the most intimate form of relationship, like a brotherhood and a sisterhood, like the most intimate form of relationship. And that's how they described it. It could be a friendship. Like me, my friend is my brother. I've known him for years, and he's like probably one of the closest people to me. But like, they described it as having $1, right? You have a dollar in life, and that's the only dollar you're able to spend. You only have the dollar. You can break it up into as many segments as you like, but it has to stay a dollar. So you could have 100 pennies, or you could have 4 quarters, and each one of the quarters holds significantly more value than each one of the pennies. And the way that it was described was with friends and with brothers and with close intimate relationships. It's, you can choose to have all of these pennies, or you can choose to have a few quarters. And I'm not opposed to the idea of having, 1 quarter and a few dimes and nickels and pennies. Like, the list can go on and on. There's endless possibilities, but I think where I stand most of the time is, if you don't have that quarter, then you are lacking. You will ultimately lack in community, whether a little bit of a lack or a lot of a lack. I think there will still be a lack, and that's just coming from my personal experience, what I've learned, what I've seen. But with things like this, source of media and so-called community, I think it's very easy to get entangled by having these penny relationships. And I don't think, our lives are literally enclosed to a dollar. I think some people accrue more, some people have less, and some people, build on what they have, and it's different stuff like that. But so for me in high school, starting to do the things that I was doing with like my channel and my YouTube stuff, I loved it, and it was a release for me. And it was something that I enjoyed to just do and not rely on, and not have to worry about like a schedule. And I had like a certain format, like I would upload a few videos a week, but it was like I was doing my thing. And for me, social media in general, and things like the platforms like Twitch, platforms like YouTube, is a great means to begin the road to community and begin taking the steps towards community. But I don't think it should be the source of community. So like the source of my community, and I think I've learned that now, but something that I didn't know earlier. I think in my head, I wanted to form a community on the platform that I was doing a lot of stuff on, and I wanted to have that as like almost like my main source. And I think it's great in theory, but I think very quickly it can become lonely if you're not surrounding yourself with the right people. And so in high school, right, I keep doing circles, but in high school, when I started doing all of this different stuff, like I was very excited about it. I thought I was going to do it for the rest of my life, type of thing. And it was the summer after my junior year that I was convinced to go to this youth camp. And it was like a church youth camp. But it wasn't what you think a church youth camp is. It was in Dallas, Texas, in the middle of the city. So you can imagine, we weren't pitching tents. We weren't in the mountains. We weren't like doing all kinds of craziness. We didn't have like uniforms, like yellow uniforms on, and call each other Boy Scouts and stuff like that. Nothing against Boy Scouts. I actually know nothing about that. I don't think it's a religious thing, but that's just how I picture it, like a Boy Scout clothing, church camp type of feel, and it's just, that wasn't it. It was more what you see nowadays, like on different social media platforms, of like a big stage with big fancy lights and a bunch of kids like raising their arms or something. That's the kind of place that I went to. And my family, just a little bit about me. I always say like I wasn't raised in a Christian home, and it's because I wasn't. Like my family, both my families didn't come from like Christian background. No pastors in the family, no nothing like that. My mom, when I was younger, started getting into like religion and stuff, and so did my dad. But it was always like we'll go maybe on a special Sunday, like maybe we'll go for like Easter Sunday, or we'll go for Christmas, like we'll do a Christmas service, just here and there, stuff like that. And I never really took any of that with me throughout high school. I was just kind of doing my own thing. Didn't really, it was like, yeah, there's probably like somebody who created all this because science and whatnot. Which I was never motivated to actually look any of it up. I didn't really care. But when I had the opportunity to go to this youth camp, and it was because my friend who was going had really bad anxiety, and I didn't want to let him go to this youth camp alone, because I was like, he's gonna freak out. He can barely leave his house some days. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna go hook a brother up, go with him, and we'll just get through it. And as I went, I had heard a story that I had never heard in 3 days of my being there. 3 days, and then one morning the following 3 days. But I had heard a story, a narrative that I had never heard before. And I heard the gospel, which is taken from the Christian Bible, right? And I say I'm being very specific because I know there's a lot of different things out there. And I had heard that narrative in a way that I had never heard it before. But I didn't go to church very often, so it was like never really heard it anyway. But as I heard it, over the course of 3 days, I had decided to start looking into it more, which it really started the year prior. I went to a similar thing that my church had done, and it was mainly because I wanted to visit and reconnect with some old friends from my elementary school. My town is really small. My city is really small. And so when I heard that certain kids from my elementary school were going to be at this church camp thing my sophomore year, I was like, heck yeah, I'm going to go visit with them and catch up. And when I went, that was the first time that I had heard anything about like Jesus and God and faith and religion and love, like the love religion type stuff. It was the first time I had heard any of it. And I was very interested. I was very intrigued. And so I started looking into it. You know, I would go to the occasional youth service throughout that year. And then the following year was when I went to the youth camp in Dallas. When I went there, that's when I really was like, because I was on the fence the entire time. Just, you know, like, I think it might be cool to look into, and it sounds like interesting, but I don't really care. And that's just where I was. And I after going to Dallas, hearing it in a way that I never heard before, and having it explained to me more in depth, I was able to take those 3 days and take time to really choose and decide what I wanted to believe and who I wanted to be, what kind of a life that I wanted to live. And as I delved into those things, I fell in love with all of it. And I had now formed, and I'm trying not to be, if you can tell, I'm trying not to be like too Christianese. My way of saying, like, talking too much language that's like churchy. Because since that day, I had been consistently going to church, but more importantly, consistently trying to seek to understand this God that I was believing in. And in doing so, produced in me the person that I am today, the life that I want to live today, the things that I believe today. Not because, somewhat because of me going to church, but the thing that a lot of people don't understand about church, the church in the Bible, not common tradition church, the church in the Bible, is that it's a community, a place to build community, a place to operate in community, and a place to collectively do things not for that religion, but to do things operating within their own belief systems. Things like worship, collective worship, things like prayer, things like supporting one another, like in ministerial aspects. And that's what it's supposed to be. A lot of times now, instead, what we get, not everywhere, but a lot of places, is this traditional sense of, I'm going to walk in the doors, I'm going to listen to a person like talking, I'm going to walk out of the doors and go about my week. And that's just not an accurate picture of what it was supposed to be. And what it was supposed to be, you know, we can trace back into the written texts of the Bible, the original manuscripts, and not obviously the original, there's no copy, but the earliest manuscripts formed from that is, I think, 300 AD is documented. Around there anyway, the 300s, the 300 ADs. 80s? 380s. No, somewhere around there, I think. It might be like 500 or something like that, but something for me and something for you to look into is that it is the most confirmed, like, text, like accurately composed historical document on the planet, with the most, it has the most, like, sources, I guess, just over, like, throughout history. The most, it has the most sources that are the most accurate. And that, to me, is a lot of why I believe in what the Bible says, and why I believe the words of the New Testament, and what it means for people who desire to believe in God. And then you follow into the story and the lineage of the gospel, and the gospel being basically like the reason that we're here. It's the best way to put the gospel in. And I'm not talking about the traditional church spread gospel. I'm talking about, you look into the Bible and you find and you pinpoint the actual narrative of what life is about according to the Bible, if you believe in that. And you learn firsthand from God why you're here, why you were created. And I'm not talking about why you're here is like, you're supposed to be a pastor, you're supposed to be a churchgoer. That's ridiculous. I'm talking about the reason that you have a soul. I think the soul has a lot to do with consciousness. Fun fact, science still has no physical proof of conscious life. They've studied it and tried to pinpoint it. There's a lot of different theories of what section of the brain your consciousness dwells in, and they've done in-depth like heat scanning and to see like what parts of the brain are active when consciousness is in play, and they can't find it. They can't figure it out. A lot of people have studied it over the years. It's very interesting. You should look it up. But I think that's connected to a soul. I think that's proof of having a soul. And because of that, why do we have a soul? Why do we live and have this capacity, not of thinking, not of intellectual thought, but of conscious awareness? And I think the two differ in a few ways, but all that to say, like, the gospel shares why it is that we are different. And I don't think we're necessarily, I do think that humans are different. I think that humans are special. Because from what I believe in the Bible is that everyone is created with a purpose, for a purpose, and individually and differently, and in this idea of love that we get from God. And then you can go into all the different arguments and things of that, like, is God really good, and what is good, and what is morality, and what defines morality with God, and different stuff like that. And that's an entire, like, 7-hour devotion right there. But all that to say, like, in that year span of when I started looking into it, these are things that I decided to believe in. Not just I woke up one morning and I was like, you know what, I'm going to follow what my parents brainwashed me to do. That is absolutely ridiculous. I had no prior knowledge of it. I searched it out on my own accord, wanted to know more about it, so I looked it up and did my own research and sought God for myself. And that made me who I am today. That's like any other choice in life. That's what brought me here. And so I had decided that summer to dedicate my life to not only seeking, but serving a God that I believed in with all of my heart. And since then, I've been the happiest that I've ever been. I've always had hope, like, that, you know what I'm doing, where I'm at in life, everything that's going on around me, in the good days and bad, there's always going to be something. There's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. But more importantly, there's always going to be a light that is within me, that I can constantly look inward and say, I'm all right. It's going to be okay. And that's the hope that I've walked into. And after that, I get into this idea of, and in my belief and in my, what I believe and what I believe the Bible teaches, is that there's an intimate personal relationship between God and man through the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross, that this idea of sin or evil should be purged, like, in us, to where those things are no longer weighing in on our soul, but having this cleanness, God is able to manifest himself into spirit and live and dwell within us. It's a very interesting concept. It's a very intimate concept. And because of that, you might have heard it as the Holy Ghost or Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit living inside, we have this personal communication and personal intimate relationship with a God that we believe and are, like, climbing on believing loves us. And as I started to realize that, and as I started to walk in that community and fellowship with God, it baffled me, really, because like, who am I? You know, like the things that I've done, the things that I've said, the things that I've like seen. Who am I to be able to have this? And then you get into the idea of grace and mercy, kindness, love, salvation. That's all of those things come hand in hand. And that's what I had experienced. And those are the things that gave me hope. And that was only attainable through the one man, Jesus. And so as I started to walk in that community with God, I started to ask and let him guide and direct my life, because I started to enter into the idea that if God is for me, if God loves me, and he has a plan for my life, then it should be fitting that I should follow in God's best for me. And sometimes God's best for us is us avoiding, not us avoiding, but like him opening up the door to so many possibilities that are selective to us and what we want. Not including sin, of course, not including things that are evil. And you get into, okay, well, what is evil? What is sin? And there's just a whole thing on that. It's not a list instead of rules. It's not a list instead of morality or moral things. The Old Testament, yes. And there's a whole reason behind that. But there's a lot of different like theologians and pastors and preachers and teachers who talk about sin and talk about the first and foremost, like the root of sin, and they'll talk about like human selfishness or something like that, you know, which I'm not directing it towards that or limiting it towards that, but things devoid of sin, I think God will give to us for us to choose not our own path, but things that are in like individually fitted for us. So, in other words, the will of God is not a strict bowling alley, like that's your purpose. Go ahead and throw this. I've set up guardrails and you won't ever get out of those guardrails. This is the only section of the bowling alley that you will ever see. I don't think that that is what God had intended for his will for our lives. I think it's much more free. I think it's much more open. It's like an open world game. And God is showing you, hey, don't go over there. That's going to end up killing you. Hey, don't go over there. That's going to end up killing you. These are your best options. These are the best things for you and the best things for me. And when I started to understand that more and follow in that and build my own following upon that, I wanted to, follow in God's best for me. And I really felt that the YouTube thing and the whole social media drive was not the best option for me at the time. And I figured it wasn't my place in that time to be doing those things. They weren't inherently bad. But now looking back and having followed what I believe to be right, according to what I believe that God was speaking to me. Looking back, I see that there were a lot of things that I needed to do before I was able to jump onto a platform like this, you know? There were a lot of things that I needed to sort out within my own character. A lot of direction that I needed to follow in, and I wouldn't have been able to if I was distracted with the things that I was distracted. I don't think it was mainly a distraction, but I think very easily it would have become a distraction, especially with me being as passionate as I was about it. And so fast forward, I graduate high school, and then I decide to go to college, which was an entire journey in of itself. Go to a college 1,100 miles away, literally. I wanted to go local too. That's ridiculous, but 1,100 miles away, decided to go to college, and I wanted to go to a college that would build my faith and help me understand my place in the world, and as well build my character, and would be best suited for who I wanted to become. And upon that choice, I went to Atlanta, Georgia. Spent 3 years there. Did a lot of growing up. Did a lot of, and I don't think I've made it or anything, but I was able to securely form my theology. In other words, form my ideas behind everything God. And that's what I wanted going in, and that's what I got. And I still have so much to go, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this video, is explain where I've been recently. This last year was my third and final year going to that college, but I had been taking classes in an extension site, and that was the extension site in Atlanta, but I've been taking college through Southeastern University in Lakeland, Florida. And so I only have 3 classes left until I get my associate's degree, but I'm at a job right now that might pay for my college, so I might change that associate's to a bachelor's. I don't really know yet. I'm just going to kind of roll with the punches, but 3 classes left for my associates. And here I am now. My school ended up actually closing for a few different reasons that I'm not willing to talk about here on this stream. So it was my last year in Atlanta. This last summer was the last time that I'd be leaving. And I've been home ever since. And I felt like a lot of me was left like purposeless, and not purpose of being, but purpose of doing. Like, what am I supposed to do with my life? I know who I want to be. I just don't know what I want to do, you know? And did a lot of searching. I did a lot of sitting. I did a lot of nothing. And being in an intense environment that my college was, because it is an intense community driven environment. Being in that, it was such a different feeling being home now, not having that. And it drove me into a lot of different things, because I haven't been home in 3 years. Now, being home, it threw me for a loop when I didn't go back to college in August. I was like, I'm supposed to be at school right now. What am I doing here? And it was really difficult readjusting. And it was really difficult on my mind, on my, what I call my spiritual life. It was very difficult on all of it. And I'm continuing to build my theology, by the way. I'm reading a few books right now that are really, really good. I'm getting tired, by the way, but it's fine. Sponsored. Star Wars Cup. It's not sponsored. Sorry, I hate ASMR. Unpopular opinion, I guess. But I feel like it's always disrespectful to eat or drink something when I'm near a mic, so I always feel like I have to move away or push the mic away. Anyways. Yeah, so not knowing what to do with my life and trying to figure out where do I go from here? What do I do? What do I feel like I'm here for in terms of like what is the best for me? And also what is the best for God from me? Because I want to serve him. I want to live my life for him. I'm indebted. I'm bound by love. Forever marked with that love. And it's actually interesting theology behind that too, of is like, are you forever saved after you say yes to God? Do you forever hold your salvation? I don't think that you do. But there's a whole talk about that. Tons of verses, tons of everything. I'm going to get a bunch of backlash. I already know it. But you can show me all the verses you'd like. I just know where I stand because I've done my own research. I promise you I've seen and read all of the verses. And I can make that promise, not only because I've read the articles and talked to the people, talked to pastors. Not only that, but I have read the entire Bible, the New Testament multiple times, more than I can count at this point. And that's not me boasting, that's me saying, listen, I understand the theology behind once saved, forever saved. I do. I completely get it. Because I've read it. I've seen it. And every time I come across those verses, I re-question. I'm like, okay, it says that. And then I remember what I believe, and I remember, okay, this says this over here. This says this over here. How does it all piece together? What's what? And for me, I've formed my own conclusion about it. And, it doesn't, for me, it's not like a fear factor for me of like, oh, I can lose my salvation. I believe in Jesus, and I know that I can't do anything for my salvation, and I can't do anything to keep it. I can't do anything to maintain it. And I know that, like, for me, where I stand is I continually seeking and trying to get to know Jesus more, even if, the place that I'm in is dull and gray, and even if I slack off, I still do believe that, Jesus is my everything. He's my core. He's my rock. He's the only thing that keeps me grounded, keeps me steady. No way, that did not just happen. Is there a way I can clip that? Is that a thing? Dude, I have to clip that. That's incredible. He said, come on. Oh my gosh. That's so good, dude. That's literally so good. That was so perfect. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I have to make sure that I'm not being too loud, dude. People are sleeping. I'm ridiculous. Goodness. Also, my hair is probably doing a thing now. It's fine. Okay. Where was I? Yeah, like I know all these things. But I also know where I stand if, like, I know my own free will allows me and gives me the ability to rebuke and leave these beliefs that I have anytime that I want, and to reject Jesus entirely. I have that capacity because I'm human and I have free will. And that's just what I believe. And then you get into the conversation of once saved, always saved. Okay, well, if somebody turns their back on Jesus, were they ever really saved in the first place? I don't really know where I stand with that. I haven't experienced that. I haven't looked into that. There's just a lot of things that come into play. I just don't think, you know what? At one point, you got to sit back and say, you know, what really matters is where I'm at now, where I want to be, and where I'm going to keep trying to be. For me, I just want to seek Jesus. And I want to continue in my life and do the things that not only make me happy, but would make God happy, because he's my bro. He's my homie. My dude. Like, I owe everything to him. And I am glad that he's given me life, because that's what I believe in. That's just me. And so, how did that topic even come about? See, I've been doing so good at backtracking and remembering where I was until this point. I know I'm getting tired. This is what I call her my favorite TikToker, because she is. She's real all the time, and she has a very cool community with her fans. And like, I respect that. And it's something that I would personally want to implement. And this is what I imagine her chaotic stuff being like. This is the feeling that I imagine. But let's just backtrack on the huge rabbit hole of theology. Can you tell that I'm really trying not to like offend anyone? I don't want to offend anybody. And my thing is also like, don't push your religion on us. Yes. And I'm sorry if like what I'm saying offends you, and I'm sorry if, you know, you don't believe those things, and that's okay. I recommend that you either pause the video and come back and see, like, you know, when I start talking about something different. It's just, I'm going to continue talking about it because that's my right. And that's what I want to talk about at some points. But I do understand and acknowledge that if that's not you, then that's not you. Do I want everybody to try this out? Absolutely. I would be selfish if I didn't. Why? Because I would just want it for myself and not want anybody to experience the things that I've experienced. It's ridiculous. Like, of course I want people to believe what I believe. But people are individual. People are special. People have their own lives, their own thoughts, they're entirely own conscious. And what I believe to be their entirely own soul. And so, of course, I want people to experience the things I've experienced. That's not for me to decide. But I will, like, talk about things. Like, I'm not afraid to talk about things, you know? Sorry, my hair is doing crazy stuff. Just gonna try to fix it in a couple swoops. There we go. Whatever. But yeah, so I had to do that rabbit trail, and I had to do that disclaimer as well. But now, being in the place that I'm in, we're an hour in, by the way. Shout out, congrats. Still going strong with the music. I'm really, like, the place that I'm in is just, I've never been in this place before. Obviously, Jared, no, but I've never been, like, I've never felt this way. I've never felt this weird, it's this really weird feeling. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things up here that I'm sorting through, as with everybody. And for me, that's just where I am right now. And you're like, dude, why are you streaming if you're going through crazy stuff? Like, it's a great question. Follow me to find out. Just kidding. Could you imagine? No. I need to keep it down. It is 2 a.m. after all. 2:38 now. But and you know why do I start now? After being in this weird place. It's something that I truly enjoy. After all these years, I decided, not on a whim, it was intentional, deliberate thought. You know, the PS5 is coming out. I really wanted to get it. I was going to get it. And then I decided to get a PC and rebuild my PC. I did a rebuild because in order to get to college, I sold all my gaming systems, and then I sold my PC, and I sold a bunch of stuff that I owned at the time. Gosh, it was really painful letting that go. I still have pictures of it, but I decided, a whole nother story why I decided, but I decided to build another PC, and here we are. I'm looking at it. I love it so much. I could show you, actually. I want to show you because I'm so proud of it. Please ignore the entire mess. Oh, that is my room. Glory be to God. But here she is. Oh, I know she's pretty. One of my RAM sticks doesn't light up. Please ignore it. Focus. Hello. It kind of looks cool blurred. Thank you. Okay, come on. But I love the case, dude. I love the case so much. I love the inside. I didn't have that. That wasn't like a common luxury back when I was like doing a lot of PC stuff. It was common that people had it. You know, don't get me wrong. I don't know where I had this at all. We're just gonna call it right there. It's centered. Yeah. Right? I don't know. But I decided to build a new PC. And legitimately, I kid you not, I built it yesterday, last night. Got done with the entire build around 11:30 maybe. 11:30, yeah. Got done around 11:30. And started playing The Witcher 3. I'm so excited about it. I love it so much. But I got on today, and me and my friend had been planning to play Phasmophobia, and we were so excited to do so, and I was so excited to do so. And we played with my other friend on his old PC, which is sitting right there because he gave me his because he built a new PC. But we decided to get on, and he's been having a problem where he's skipping frames as he's playing Phasmophobia, trying to stream it. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it's this. And we did a bunch of troubleshooting. He recently bought a new graphics card. I don't know a lot of it. I really don't. I really do not know a lot of why PCs do what they do. But I'm a big believer in, hey, just try to move that around and see if it works. So he is getting a different graphics card because he wanted to for a long time. And that was his original plan. But he's hoping that it'll fix a lot of stuff. But it wasn't working. So he was like, well, you should stream. because he gave me his stream overlay, which I'm so excited for. It's so nice. It's so pretty. It's so good. Like, it's just nice. And so he gave me that. I'm so excited for it. And I set it all up, and I was like, I had it all open, and everything was running well. Everything was going good. And he was like, dude, you should stream. I was like, yeah, I should. And so just on a whim, just streamed, and it ended up being 5 hours, and it was good. Like, we had so much fun. We had a blast. A couple friends joined in later on, and it was awesome. Like, I genuinely had a lot of fun. And this stuff has been on my mind for a long time. Doing it has been on my mind for a long time. And I wasn't sure if I was actually going to do all this, but I saw somebody on TikTok doing, they posted about like a Christian gaming channel that they were starting. I was like, dude, that sounds awesome. I've always wanted that. I've always wanted to see that. And he started it. And I was like, frick yeah, I want to do stuff like that. Why? Because it's always been a passion of mine, and it's always been something I enjoy. I used to be huge on editing because I would do YouTube. I would edit a lot of videos. Now, the process is so tedious that it's almost painful. And let's see, yeah. And it's like streaming kind of takes that away. And you have the community that you desire. And of course, I just started. Like, there's one person here, and I don't even know if it might be a bot, you know? Hey, one person, if you're in the chat, let me know that you're a human. See, because it says there's 4 people in the chat, but I know there's only one. So maybe there's one real person that's watching. I don't know. What I do know is that I enjoy it. Been wanting to do it for a very long time. Seeing these Christian creators do things that they love and do it like, I don't want to say on a whim, because that's disrespect. I feel like it's disrespectful. But like doing it without being so, like, it's not stressful for them. It's not work for them. They do it because they love it. They do it because it makes them happy, and they do it to make other people happy. And that's what I want to do. I want to have 2 a.m. talks like this. And then I want to play Phasmophobia with my homies on the weekend. It's been really good right now. I talked about it in Phasmophobia, but I got sick. I had to quarantine for my work, and I've been out of work for a while. And it's been nice, don't get me wrong, but it's also like I want to work. But I'll be going back here pretty soon. But it was a perfect opportunity for me to say, you know what, I'm going to stream and just send it, see what happens. And so that's what I'm doing. And this introduction, like, it, for me, it's come full circle. And I didn't plan on any of this. I literally did this on a whim, this introduction. I literally, like, I was sitting here, I got off Discord with my homies. I was like, all right, we're all going to bed. It's time for sleep. For some people, it's time for RuneScape. If you play it, you know. But then I sat here and I thought about reading my Bible, because that's what I want to do before I go to sleep tonight. And I thought about it. And I thought about I did like a little social media thing on Instagram where I have this account. It's Bible Fanatic 99. I haven't posted on it sense doing it, but I did like a 51-day on ramp to a Bible in a Year plan that I had created. It's a really cool spin on like Bible plan that I wanted to implement, and I feel like I did it, and I enjoyed doing it. I had a lot of fun. And but it was also like, okay, after live streaming, I live streamed the 51 days, and I live streamed twice a day for 51 days. It's like after doing that and reading the Bible for 51 days online, it was like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. That's why it was 51 days. Glad I didn't commit to a year. But I thought about that. I thought about what I did around that time, and I was like, you know what? I want to talk, and I want to talk about things. I want to get things not only off my chest, but explain like where I've been all this time, what I've been doing, and how I've come full circle, and why I enjoy this, even though there's one person watching. Why it's fun for me, and why I want to do things like stream games and then stream logo creations. See, that's the thing too. I need a banner, and I was like, what a perfect opportunity to stream and create a banner in GIMP. I use GIMP software. GIMP. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. That's how I pronounce it. The music cut off and it really threw me out. There it goes. There it is. Whew, goodness gracious. But it's like, I really want to do that. And I'm excited for all of those things. I'm excited to have this crazy, somewhat unscheduled, I might do the schedule later on, but unscheduled, big, huge ball of chaos, as my favorite TikToker says. That's fun for me. And especially in this time where I can't go out and, you know what, start a small group of a couple people where we can talk about the Bible, and we can have fun, and we can do little outings and just go out to dinner and build a community that way. I can't do that. Literally, physically cannot do that with all of the coronavirus crazy stuff going on, political stuff. Literally, the world is ending type. Like, it's not possible. It's not feasible. What a better way, what a better thing to exploit than the online community. Especially right now. Especially in this time. And that's what I want to do. And hopefully, I can make a few people's lives a little bit better. Hopefully, I can make a difference in a few people's lives. Hopefully, I can change a few people's views that may have been negative prior to viewing and seeing my channel. That's my hope. And that's ultimately what I do, why I do what I do, why I want to do what I do. On top of, it is fun. It is something that I really enjoy. I want to make a difference, and I want there to be purpose in it. I don't want to just hop on and waste my life away. I don't think it's wasting, but I don't want to go on complacent, and I don't want to go on without a purpose. And so my goal is to find that purpose and to continue to not just seek for the purpose, because I think that in itself is boring. Like, seeking purpose is not fun a lot of times. But I want to find it in the journey and enjoy it. In the good times and the bad times. because it hasn't been a very good time recently. It hasn't. Like, I'm not gonna front. Life, I'm not saying that my life is extremely hard. I'm not saying my life is extremely easy. It's just been hard. And things are different. Like, I'm different because of it. And I think, that's okay. What's not okay is complacency for me. What's not okay is letting pain linger and control me. That to me is not okay. And so it's like that's my fight. That's what I've been fighting. Among a great many other things, but that of recent is like what's going on. And I think it's a perfect transition for me. Like, this video is set to be a transition for me to start. Because I didn't want to do some huge, like, social media, like, all right, in 5 days I'm going to start. I'm much more, like, spontaneous, on a whim kind of guy. And I love that about myself. I do. I think it's fun. Some people don't think it's fun, and that's okay. Me, I think it's fun. I think it's hilarious. Sometimes I jump in, and it's like, did I really do that? But yeah. I'm excited overall. And for anybody who watched this entire video, bless your heart. Bless your heart. Here's to my. I could cry right now. Why? Because it's 3 a.m. and I feel very emotional. Anyways, here's to many 3 a.m. nights. Here's to many games. Here's to many talks, conversations, community building. Here's to the future. Here's to hope. Salut. Cheers. I like my cup, by the way. I'm gonna go and sleep. I might watch an episode of Inuyasha before I do. And then I'm gonna read my Bible. And I'm gonna enjoy the rest of my awakeness. That's definitely no, that's wrong. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys later. I had this problem earlier too. I couldn't find the end stream button. There it is. Okay, bye.